I think it's important to point out that trans people exist everywhere.
I finally felt like I was becoming a part of a space that I always knew I belonged in, but the world wouldn't allow me to. I also have that fear in the back of my mind, always, that the access to what I have may not always exist. There is now kind of a bit of a target on my back.
This pendulum swing back feels like there's a lot of other work that needs to be done around education and advocacy.
And particularly for the trans community here, that we will not be erased, we will not be silenced, and if you didn't think it could happen in your backyard, then you're absolutely wrong, because we grow here too.
Issues surrounding transgender individuals are all over the media, getting shared and dissected. Yet, lived experiences behind these conversations are rarely given the microphone.
So we asked trans people themselves about their transitions, about their resources, and about support and what that really looks like. And this is what they had to say.
At its core, the Grand Rapids Trans Foundation is a local organization that is by and for the trans community to support, celebrate, uplift, and prioritize the trans and non-binary community. Trans community has always been a little bit more on the fringes of the LGBT community at large. I think over the years since queer liberation in the 70s and 80s, we've seen a lot of support, resources, and acceptance around kind of gay, lesbian, bisexual folks, but to a large extent, the trans community was still very much struggling. So 10 years ago when we started, we saw a path forward to really support and celebrate the trans community in a way that we weren't seen in the city.
What I've always loved about the Grand Rapids Trans Foundation, that it's by trans people for trans people. And from its inception, really prided itself on a grassroots model that I admired. That I was still kind of finding my way in the world, but I always wanted to be a part of kind of the inner workings of this organization. That is assisting with things like, transportation around the city, to offering an inclusive wardrobe of different, gender affirming items, personal care items, talking about updating legal documents. What a huge way, what a tangible material way to transform people's lives. The amount of students that have said I was able to finally get a binder that fits because of the gender junk closet at GRTF. I was able to change my name because of y'all. Moments like that where the community really is just showing and sharing how you have changed their life, there's nothing like it.
Grand Rapids Trans Foundation is amazing. I would not be as half as far as I am without having been able to contact them and get where I needed to be.
Erin Brefka is one of many who have found support with the Grand Rapids Trans Foundation. Sitting alongside her wife Mackenzie, she shares her journey.
Looking back, kind of realized I was always a little different growing up, I was born in northern Michigan. It was not a diverse area. I grew up one of 3 boys. It was a very male-dominated space that I lived in. My mom was the only female figure in my life for a good chunk of time. So I didn't really know any other way of living other than as a boy. And as I got older, I was very flamboyant and goofy and very emotionally sensitive compared to a lot of other people. And so I would get picked on, I'd get bullied, called different things, stop, classic, stop being a girl, or, don't be a fag, all those awful things that people still sometimes say to people. Kind of just accepted that and lived life. And I had some issues with depression in elementary school days that we couldn't figure out what it was linked to. Spoiler alert, we kind of knew, but we now know what it was linked to. And so I just kind of accepted that life and tried to live it the best I could for as long as I could. But as I got older, like all the way up to literally my 30s, there were just cracks showing. When I graduated high school, I wanted to pursue bigger things, so I went to college, ended up at GVSU, graduated in 4 years and some change. Met her along the way, and eventually got jobs, and we've been here ever since. We were friends all through college, did projects off and on together, and after we graduated, we both coincidentally also got jobs in local news, competing stations. And I just sort of went on the internet and said, hey, I need a roommate because it looks like I'm sticking around.
So I just commented on the Facebook post, yo, pick me. We know each other, we're friends, this will work out fine. We went and found an apartment and lived together for a hot minute. And then I snagged us tickets to a dance that Grand Valley puts on every winter. We were gonna go meet some friends or whatever, and she asked me to dance.
Mm-hmm. There had been 8 months of internal conversations about us that we didn't share with each other. And in that moment, I kind of just took a chance. Mm-hmm. Within the next year, I was looking at engagement rings. There was just a internal knot in my stomach all the time. 20 years of living as a person that you just assume you're supposed to be, versus the person you are does a real number on a lot of parts of you. And so for me, it was a lot of playing a character almost. So if I act this way, I won't get ostracized and I won't be othered or made fun of if I blend in and I go with the flow. And after a while, that facade just started to break. Fortunately and unfortunately, waited until after I got married to really start to sit with that. And so there was just the feeling of, I guess I don't have to be this way. It's working for everybody else, but it's not working for me. I'm having mental breakdowns. I'm feeling lost and anxious and depressed. I was taking testosterone boosters for a while because I thought maybe I didn't have enough or I wasn't energized enough trying to work out. I had sleep issues, and I finally just kind of cracked and sat down with her and just told her I need to do something different. And we thought at first, I thought at first it might mean the end of our relationship. We had some very difficult nights, and by the end of all of it, it was basically, I need to go see a therapist. And so I went to a therapist and started talking about gender and fluidity and where that lies within me, and tried to experiment with clothes and names and things like that. And the next thing I knew, I was looking up supplements on the internet. And so I I came out and I was I think I gotta go all in and see what happens. So next thing we knew, Erin was here.
What did all in look like for you? What were those steps to take?
I just never felt like I cared. I didn't have the drive to work out or exercise or be healthy. I would take substances just to numb myself, I think. And it was because I just didn't really care about myself. And so this gave me a chance to step outside of that space and be okay, well, you don't have to wear those clothes. Or, you don't have to go by that name or pronouns or whatever. I'm super lucky that I've had Mackenzie, because the whole time she was just all right, we'll give it a try. We'll see what happens. We'll experiment. And
I mean, my whole philosophy was there is no, we have to get to a certain place. It's try this thing. Does it work or not? Cool.
Yeah.
That determines what's next. Honestly, the most difficult conversations for me were when you weren't sure about your sexuality. And I want you to have what you need, but I don't want to share. And we, as a pair, decided that we together were the most important thing. And that meant supporting each other as individuals as well. People used to ask me all the time, how did I feel about it? I picked my person. We looked back in my wedding vows. I never once put a gender on it. I said, I will be your partner. I said, we will be a team. I said things like that. Those all still apply. Watching her shine and bloom has been the greatest gift.
If nothing else, we've become such a sappy couple. But like, yeah, I feel extremely lucky to have her in my life. So many of those stories, they have very tragic moments because a lot of people lose their partner over it.
I can understand why some relationships don't survive this. And I don't want to judge anybody for that. For me, this is a different version of you, but I like this version too. You are happier and you are more joyful, and that brings more happiness and joy into my life. And we get to go do awesome stuff together and just shine. And I couldn't ask for more than that. This is what she means by we're the sappy couple.
There was definitely an unknown weight that just kind of fell off me when I finally started to embrace myself. Like, I finally felt like I was becoming a part of a space that I always knew I belonged in, but the world wouldn't allow me to, I guess. Having connections with friends, like having much deeper emotional connections to people, which is something I've always felt and wanted. It's really allowed me to do things I would never in my dreams thought I could do, like going clubbing in a skirt or like wearing cute dresses. Like, it sounds so silly, but it's just such a, like, I don't know, it just feels right. It's like a puzzle piece finally fitting into the right spot. And it's just like, it hasn't been easy. Like, there's definitely been some rejection. There's been people who are just like, I don't know if I can deal with this.
You know, there's obviously been a lot of negative rhetoric. Does that impact you? Does that ever kind of hit you?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to talk to some of my trans friends. Like, I know people who were like veterans and then transitioned in their civilian life and now no longer can get the care through the VA because they're trans, or like people who have trans like kids or like trans teenagers, and they're terrified that they can't actually get the care that they need to embrace that. I also have that fear in the back of my mind always, that the access to what I have may not always exist. There is now kind of a bit of a target on my back. There are trans voices out there telling their stories, but people usually kind of have to go out of their way to find those things. And so on a more mainstream scene, I don't think there is enough representation. Oftentimes feel like that's by design, because that would make us seem normal. I really want to believe that most people out there don't have such negative perspectives. The internet world now is just so heavily toxic in the space of just trying to get a rise out of people. I think it's just a concerted effort to keep talking, even if no one wants to listen, because eventually someone will.
There are a lot of uncertainties in our lives, and I'm still trying to figure out who I really am and what my purpose in all this is. Yeah. But for all that I have yet to decide, there's one thing I know for certain, and it is that I love you, Mackenzie Lynn Dayton. I love you so much that I want you there to help me figure this all out. I am more myself with you than anyone, and just knowing you are there is enough to comfort me to the end.
Still true.
I can't.
I won't pretend that everything is fine, and we're living in very bleak circumstances, absolutely. But at the same time, it is so important to kind of foster, like transform what it looks like to be in one's own power. I feel like I've just become much more protective, I think, of the community, both of like Gen Z and Gen Alpha as they come up, really kind of like creating in them a sense of hope.
Can we start with the beginning of your journey, Alex, and just kind of when you thought, I guess, that you would want to transition, or you had early thoughts of transitioning?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think maybe first grade?
Second to third is when I started being aware.
So I think it really just started with like nicknames at school that I'd prefer to go by, because not everyone said my legal name right and stuff like that. So it was like nicknames and then preferred names, and then it just kind of continued. It started off gradual, but I think around 5th grade, it was kind of just like somewhere, like in the summer, I think. It was just kind of like, went from being gradual to just immediately, this is how I want it to be. My friends kind of all expected it, so there was that, and then I just, because they had already been using like my preferred name and stuff by then, so then when I got into middle school, I just got it put on my middle school ID and then my email and the teachers' like attendance list and stuff.
So it seemed like the teachers and the educational system was really kind of supportive in that. Was that something you had to have a conversation about?
I kind of just went into the office and asked. Well, for my ID card, when I was getting it printed, I just asked, can I get this name on it instead? And the photographer was just like, is it already on your school account? And I'm like, yeah. So then they just changed it, and then I got my like name on my email and on some school documents. I just went in and asked, and my mom had to sign something, I think.
I don't remember if I had to sign anything or just come in and give permission. But it wasn't hard. Yeah.
How do those things that they maybe sound like a smaller part of your school journey, how does that make you feel like more comfortable though showing up kind of as yourself?
I guess it's a lot easier to just not explain rather than like if someone looks at my name on a school list and they're like, I have no idea who that is. But it just makes it's easier for me to like be contacted by other people or just like stuff like that, because they associate the account and the name with me instead of someone they don't know. It wasn't exactly clarity, it was more just like making a decision. And I'm still me, it's just that's a label, I guess, now that I was fully taking.
Honestly, I still struggle and use the legal name a lot more than I should. But that's just being a mom. Like, you know, I gave that name and it's something so little, and it's a word. It's all down to a word, but that one word makes such a difference in the pickup line, in school events, and I slip once in a while, but not nearly as bad. Like, I'm getting there. I ask for grace on a regular basis.
I know she's trying, and that's good, and I mean, I don't blame her if she messes up. It does mean a lot that she's willing to try to learn and understand, because I know a lot of people, and especially parents, don't. So it does mean a lot that she does.
I'm gonna cry. I see and think of other parents that can't or won't, and for me, I think about that child didn't ask to be here. They didn't ask for you to be their parent. They were given to you. I was blessed with a healthy child because my kid decides to wear whatever, you know, clothing style that they choose. Is that gonna rub off on me? Is that gonna rub off on their friends because they chose their name to be Alex? Like, why is that affecting other people? Definitely the barriers are being honest, because I find that so important. And for instance, a lot of Alex's friends have only known Alex as Alex. But scientifically or biologically, I think it's the right of those parents to know exactly who's coming into their house. And Alex wanted to go hang out with, you know, a female friend and have a sleepover. Is that appropriate? I let them decide, but as long as they have all the facts. Sometimes we get shut down.
How does that feel when you get shut down?
I completely understand it. I mean, some parents aren't comfortable with LGBTQ at all, and I mean, that's completely their decision, it's their kid. But I really don't understand it all, I guess, because their kid, their views. So I don't really take it as something bad. It's more just like, it's just the way it is, so.
It is sad, and I think usually I find a way to kind of make it a little better. Like, we find a different friend, or we find an activity, or even just some soul food or junk food or something to just kind of lighten the mood a little bit, and maybe try meeting that family at a school event and hanging out together and trying to get to know the different parents and stuff, because that's the only way we're gonna get any further.
Have you guys had any friendships maybe that have also been kids who are trans that might understand some of it?
I definitely do have a few, but one of my first friends that came out before I did, a friend that I met in 5th grade, and then in middle school I know about 2 other people who have come out, I think, but that's about it. There are a lot of resources that I could use, so I know there's a lot of like youth groups that are centered around LGBTQ, especially around Grand Rapids and the downtown area. I just don't really choose to do them because, again, I'm not really into the whole social aspect, but there is a lot of resources for people out there.
When it comes to the future in terms of like transitioning or what that looks like, have you guys had those conversations?
Not really, because I know when I've tried to bring it up in the past, it's always been like, wait till you're older, so I guess waiting till I'm 16 would probably be when more official things could possibly arise.
I'm not ready for my baby to go through any medical changes right now because they're young, and it has nothing to do with my opinion. This is Alex's journey and Alex's body. It has to do, honestly, with health and money, because insurance doesn't cover a lot of that. And we don't really have the dollars for that right now. So we continue to educate ourselves and just try to continue keeping Alex healthy and moving forward in life, and hopefully we can find a middle ground, and in adulthood Alex can take it from there.
If folks are watching this, or somebody is maybe on this journey themselves, like trying to navigate the world as maybe newly transitioned, what would you hope that they took from the conversation?
Just knowing that there are people out there that can support you and help you and know what you're going through.
There is warmth and a sense of almost like pride and ownership and like taking up space, I think. And so in the same ways that I feel like through my trans identity, I learned how to not only take up space, but really like sit in my own body for the first time in my life and really be like, this is me, I'm here, and no one can take this from me.
I think we are all just people at the heart, and I think how we choose to convey ourselves externally, how we think about ourselves internally, is so varied.
And so I love that I feel like, you know, GRTF has found its place in spaces that people maybe weren't expecting them to be, tabling in places and areas and regions in West Michigan and beyond that maybe folks weren't expecting us to be, but we put ourselves there, you know, to emphatically say that every single member of this community has a stake, and that they have value and they have merit and that they matter.
Support for Mutually Inclusive is provided by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, the Fry Foundation, and by viewers like you.